Okay.
Yes,
And
yes.
yesterday we started the fundamental data type. For example, what is int? Okay. So how to create
Yes, yes.
int? It's very simple. Just create a variable name and just assign some data. Maybe it can be positive, it can be negative, even the zero. Okay. So these are called int data. And yesterday we saw one function, type function. So do you know what is type function? Why we use type function? Type function, type, type. So why we are using type function? Any idea?
To know the what it is the integer or I think it is the integer or float or complex. To know that we are using that.
Yeah, to get the data type, in a
yes.
simple word, to get the data type of a variable. It can
Yes.
be int, it can be float, it can be any kind of data type.
Yes.
So if you want to figure out what is the data type of variable, you can use type function. That's the purpose. Okay. And there is one more function called dir. So do you know that why we are using dir function?
Class and attribute.
Can you explain me a bit?
Class and attribute means class is nothing but the human, animal, such type of class. Okay, so that attribute is used the it is intelligent or lower intelligent, or it is the character of that class.
Okay. So how it is okay, I understood that. So how it is related with the dir function? By the way, you are correct. This is class, this is object. So how it is related with dir function? What is the connection?
That dir is indicates the which type of attribute is like A. To know the if anything something is taken, so data A is taken, then it is which type of dir, nothing but the which is the what is the attribute of A or something.
Okay. Yes, Shashwat, you know that why we use dir function? Any idea?
Keys निकालने के लिए.
Keys. Okay. So okay, I explained that in Python everything is object. You know that if you're writing a is equal to 10 or b is equal to -10 or c is equal to 0, whatever. Okay. So these are different data. These are different objects. Though they belong to same class in class, but they are different objects. So if you want to figure out what and you know that in every object there is a attributes and behavior, right? So if you want to figure out what are the different properties, different attributes inside a variable, then you can use dir function. I mean to find all the details, okay? To understand what are the different properties and behaviors supported by that variable, by that object, you can use dir function. For example, for int, these are some information. So these are some information about int, okay? For example, bit length, conjugate, numerator, denominator. So these are the properties which are available inside the int. Okay. And all property which are starting with underscore, you don't have to use it. This is used by Python internally, so you are not supposed to use it. Okay. But other one you can use it. So guys, did you do any practice about this, like a dot real, a dot bit length, a dot conjugate? Did you try something? A dot numerator, denominator. So did you try using these properties, these things, whatever you can see here? Anyone did any practice? Anyone? No one did practice, right? Okay.
Yes or no, sir?
Okay, no problem. So we will do some practice right now. Okay. But before that, let's jump to next data type. Okay, float. Okay. So int, any doubt in int data type? Anyone? Like what is int, the type function, dir function? Any doubt? Any confusion in your mind?
Sir, dir.
dir. Okay. Okay, so you are not able to understand what is dir, right? Why we are using dir function?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Let me again explain. So let's suppose I'm writing a is equal to 9, okay, and b is equal to -9, okay, something like that. So you can see here both having the data are different, right? One is 9, one is -9. It can be 900, whatever. So here the data points are different, though they all belong to same class. This is int class, but they represent the different data. Or I can say in a more concise language, it's a different object. Okay, 9 is a different object and -900 is a different object. So they are different objects. So, and yesterday I told you, we learned that every object has some property and behavior. Okay, so if you're writing a is equal to 9, b is equal to 900, something, whatever, then this variable a and b having some property inside it. Okay, so every object has some property, whether it can be float, it can be string, it can be any kind of data type, any kind of object. So it has some internal property. Python gives you some internal property, some behavior inside it. Okay. So this is the job of Python, the Python who created. So they are giving you a lot of attributes inside the object. For example, here int is, for example, here int. Okay. So I want to know what are the different attributes or different functions, different methods inside this int. Okay, which the Python is giving us. So for that purpose, you can use dir function. Okay, print dir a. So this will print a lot of functions. You can see here, it has so many functions inside it, like bit length, conjugate, numerator. So these are the, I can say these are the attributes or function which are hidden inside the int data type. Okay. So who wrote this? Who is providing these all attributes, all functions? The Python. Okay.
Why we use that internal part, sir?
Because as a user, as a programmer, you can use it. So let's suppose for this int, okay, for this int, I want to understand what is the numerator. I want to know what is the denominator. I want to know this int, how many bits it is taking to store in the memory. Okay, so these all details, this is an object, it have a lot of details. So for those details, you can find those details with the help of these functions, these attributes. Are getting this? Let's suppose I want to know 9. So 9, how many bits, binary bits? As you know that in program, everything is a binary, right? 0, 1, 0, 1. So how to store 9 internally? How many bits it will require? If you want to know that, you can use bit length function. For example, let me use this, okay? For example, I'm using a dot bit length. Okay, and I'm putting inside the print. You can run this, it will show that how many bits it taking. Okay, it is a method. Okay, there are two things. As I told you, it can either have a property or behavior, because object has two things. It can be either a property or behavior. Behavior is also called function and method. Yesterday we spoke about it, right? So you can see here, I'm just calling this function, this bit length, I'm just calling it, okay, a dot bit length. Why I'm using a? Any idea? Because a is my variable. Okay.
Okay.
So this bit length is a part of a. It can be part of b as well. Okay, that's why I'm using the variable name first, dot, and the property name, which are bit length. Okay, so here it is giving you suggestion because it's a method. Okay, it is not an attribute. So if something is a method, then the rule you have to use parenthesis like this. Okay, now you can call it, it will show the result. So 9, if you want to convert 9 into binary format, then it will take 4 bits. So this is the information it is giving you. Okay, let's suppose I want to know what is the numerator for 9. What is the numerator? So you can use numerator function. So let us see, numerator is a function or attribute. So if I if I do numerator, okay, let us run this. So it is giving me 9. Okay, so this numerator is what attributes. If you're not using any parenthesis, without parenthesis, then it is supposed to be a attribute, a property. Okay, and if you're using parenthesis, then it is called function. It is a function. So see, bit length is a function and numerator is a attribute. If you run this, it is saying what is the numerator for 9? It's 9. Let's suppose I want to understand what is the denominator of a. It should be what? 1. 1. Are you getting this? Let's suppose imaginary number. I want to understand how to represent a into imaginary part. It's a mathematics. You know, the complex number. Complex number has real part and plus imaginary part. So imaginary part will be here 0 because it's a real number. Okay. Let's suppose I want to convert into real number. So a dot real, it will be 9. 9. Okay. Are you getting this? So these are some behavior and attributes are given by Python itself, and it apply for every object, not only int. It can be for string, it can be for bit, it can be for float, for everyone. Okay. So if you want to know the detail about what are the different properties and behavior inside a variable, inside a data type, you can use dir function. And it will give you list of methods, list of these attributes or method, and you have to use it. You can call it like this. Okay, any doubt here? Any confusion, any doubt?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, we will do some example, don't worry. Okay, we will do some exercise. Okay. Now let us jump to float. Okay. So float is another data type, just like a integer, but it has a decimal part. Integer has no decimal part. It's a pure real number are not natural number, whole number without any fraction. And if you want to use a fraction decimal number, just like a mathematics, then you have to use number dot should be there. So it is considered as a float, as a fraction number in mathematics. Okay. Very simple. And similarly, for example, here I use type function and dir function, right? So exactly you can use here as well. So let's suppose this float, I want to understand what is the type. Let's suppose here, if I do 9, let's suppose if I do 9.8, okay. And if I do print the type, I want to understand what is the type of this data type. Okay. So it will say it's a float type. It's a float class. So it belongs to a float class. Okay. So the type will tell you what is the data type of this variable. Okay. But it's very similar to int. So this is the way of writing float data type. Okay. Again, if you want to understand what are the different attributes inside the float, you can use dir function similarly like int. So if I'm using dir, it will tell you all the list of attributes which are available inside the float. You can see here, it has a lot of things. Imaginary is integer, real, conjugate, there are a lot of things. Okay, so these are some attributes. Okay, so these are float. I'm not going to use this one, but if you want to use, let's suppose I want to use is integer. Okay, let us use this is integer. So you have to do what? A dot is integer. Just call it. Okay, and let's see what happens. Okay, it is saying it's a method. Okay, so if it is a method, then you have to use parenthesis like this. Okay, then it will work. False. Okay, so it is saying what it is saying. It is checking whether a is an integer or not. Okay, so 9.8, it's an integer or not integer. It's not an integer, it's a fraction. That's why it is saying it's false. Okay, if I say 9.0, it's an integer. It's a true because it's an integer part. Okay, it has it's a though it's a fraction, it's a dot, but it's an integer. Let's suppose if I do something like this, then it will be false. So it has inbuilt feature. Okay, you don't have you are not writing this function. this integer Python has given you. So as a programmer, you can use these all attributes, all the functions. Okay. So is integer is an attribute or function? This is integer that I'm using over here from here. It's an attribute or it's a function?
Function, sir.
Function. Okay. So whenever you're using parenthesis, then it is called function. And without parenthesis, then it is called attribute. Okay. Got it? For example, if I use imaginary, okay, it's in a, let's say, let me use this. So here you don't have to use attributes. You can see. Okay. So it's an attribute. Okay. So if something, if you're using without parentheses, then it is called attribute. If something you're using with parentheses, then it is called function in Python. Okay, got it? Everyone? Okay. So, okay, so these are the float. Operation I will do later. I will explain operation later. Okay, any doubt in float? It is very similar to int. Only thing it has a fraction part. That's all. And you can use type function similarly like int and dir function, just like that. Okay. Any doubt in float? This is clear? Okay. Next is the complex number. If you know from mathematics, then you can relate with this. So complex number is a number which having real part and imaginary part. Okay. So in Python, in other language like C, Java, they have no this kind of data type, complex number. Only in Python, it's a data type. So because Python was written for mathematicians, to be honest, okay? A lot of mathematicians use Python for their mathematical calculation, theories, and like that. So that's why Python support complex number. So complex number has two parts, like a real part and imaginary part, okay? So real part, we write some data, and for imaginary part, we write bj. This is the standard, okay? You have to put j. Okay, in Python, we follow j. In other mathematics, I think we follow I, right? I think I, yeah. But in Python, we follow j, okay? For example, if writing a is equal to 10 plus 20j, like this, okay? You can put minus as well. It can be plus or it can be minus. Both is possible, okay? So this is called complex number. If you use type function, it will say it is a class is complex number, okay? And if you want to understand what are the different attributes and behavior, you can use dir function. It will tell you all the details. Okay. Any doubt here? Complex number. So complex, how to create a complex number? Any variable name. Okay. And real part, it can be plus, minus, and imaginary part. And imaginary part, you have to put j. Okay. So this is complex number. Okay. Any doubt here? Anyone? Okay.
So what is imaginary part? We can't understand.
Imaginary, you know mathematics. It's a pure mathematics. It has nothing to do with Python. It's a complete mathematics here. Complex number has two parts. Okay, real part plus imaginary part. Or don't worry, we don't have to use complex number in Python in data science. So this is your complex number. If you do Google what is complex number in math, complex number in math is a mathematical term. Okay, I think Sunil can explain. Sunil, can you explain what is complex number? I think you're from physics background. He can explain better.
Complex number is nothing but the which contains generally we can written as so star is given that something 10 plus 20 j.
Yes.
In real number, real time, it is like this. I is nothing but the if we find the square root, are you sir? Yes, sir. Are you know about the square root of any number?
Yes. Square root.
So, square root of that if any square root for the minus number, we can write like this: square root of I is equal. That is here, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you don't have to confuse. Okay.
I is equal to square root of minus
yeah.
1
Yeah.
or minus any number. That is the I. That is indicated with I.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a mathematical term,
Yes.
Vijay.
Yes,
It's
sir.
a mathematics actually. So in data science, we don't use complex number. Okay, don't worry. But if Python has given you complex number, if you need some mathematical calculation, complex number calculation, you can use it. Okay. So if I talk about mathematics, then complex number has two parts. The first part is called real part. It can be any integer. Okay, I think it can be fraction as well, right? It can be fraction as well. For example, if I say 10 dot, I think fraction is also possible. 10.8. Fractions would be possible. Print type of C. Fractions would be possible. Yeah, complex number. Yeah. So this is called real part. Okay. It can be a fraction or it can be integer. Okay. And then we have to, the second part is called imaginary part. Okay. The second part is called imaginary part. And for imaginary part, you have to, in the mathematics, we use generally I. See the symbol for I in mathematics to indicate it's the imaginary part. But in Python programming, we don't use I, we use J. This is the convention in Python. Okay. So this J part is indicating that it's the imaginary part. Okay. And the first part is called real part. So this is about mathematics. I don't want to touch about mathematics, how to use square, power of I, square root. There are a lot of things, a lot of concepts are there. How to represent on x, y axis complex number are in the cosine format, sine cos, r cos theta, sin cos theta. So I don't want to go in that level. It's a pure mathematics. Okay, so I don't want to touch about mathematics, but don't worry, you don't have to use complex number in data science project. Okay, this is for only for mathematics. Okay, but if you want to use complex number, then this is the way in Python. Just create the real part plus or minus. It can be minus as well, and the imaginary part like this, and you have to put J. Okay, if you don't put J, then it will not become a complex number. So J indicates it's the imaginary part. That's all. Okay. Next thing is a non-type. Okay, so right now we saw three types: int type, float type, and complex number type. And what is non-type? Okay, so let's suppose here, I'm writing C is equal to some data. Suppose 10. Okay, so C is become what? C become int. Okay, so now let's imagine that C is a kind of container. It can be bucket, it can be glass, and it can be any kind of container. So this C is holding some data inside it, right? So this C is holding what? Int 10. Right now, this C is holding 10 as a data inside as a container. Okay, but let's suppose there's a bucket or glass which having no data. It's an empty bucket, right? Though data we can put later, but right now it's just an empty bucket without any data. Okay, so in that scenario, if you want to create a bucket or variable without holding any data, if I'm doing 4, then it is holding data. Okay, but here I don't want to keep any data inside the variable inside my container. So in that case, you have to use none. Okay, so none says that this container C, this bucket C, is not holding any data. Are you getting this? So it's an indication that it is not holding any data. Though in future it can hold any data, that depends. But right now it is not holding any data. It has no data. It's a blank. You can say it's an empty, like that. You can imagine it's an empty bucket. C is equal to none, but C is an empty bucket. C is an empty glass, empty bottle, like that. Okay, any doubt here? What is none?
Clear, sir.
If I say type C, it's a none type. Okay, so none means no data, without data. It's empty. Okay, and why we use none in Python? There's reason for that. What happens sometimes? I'm giving one practical example. Let's suppose you're a person who are doing consensus. Okay, and let's suppose you want to collect data for each employee, for each let's suppose for neighbor, in a neighbor, you want to collect data for your neighbors. Okay, so you're going to each person, each house, and you're collecting data. For example, how many persons are there in a house, what is the name, what is the salary, what is the company you're working with, what is your age, that kind of data you're collecting in your neighborhood. Okay, and let's suppose somebody is not working, okay, and you have to put salary. You have a data, you have an Excel sheet where you have to insert salary, okay, and let's suppose in that family no one is working. So in that case, what you will put in the salary section? What do you think? You have to collect the data, you have to fill some data there, but no one is working in that family. So what can be the salary? What is the value for salary in that case?
Generally, we
Zero.
use empty or sometimes we use X.
You can put X, or you can keep empty, you can keep blank, or you can put
Yes.
zero, like something like that, right? So it indicates that
Yes.
it's had no data. Okay. So
Yes.
in Python, if you want to use that in that context, I want to show that I have no data right now, then you have to use none. You cannot say zero. Zero is a data. Okay. C is equal to zero means it is not empty. Okay. It is holding data, though it's a zero, but it is holding data. You can see here, if I say z is equal to 0, it become int type. It is not a non type. It's an int type. Okay. So if you something want to make empty, then say use none. None is a data type which indicates it's an empty. It has no data right now. Okay. I hope it is clear. Right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now let me use dir function. I can use dir function here as well. So let us see what are the content inside it. Okay. So let me run this. So you can see here it has no any attributes and behavior, only underscore. Apart underscore, there is no any inbuilt methods and object and attributes, right? So why it is not giving you any attributes or behavior? What do you think? Why it is not having any list of attributes? But in case of int, in case of float, in case of complex number, we saw that it has some attributes and behavior. But in case of none, it is nothing. Why? What do you think? What is your opinion?
The present she has no data now. That's why it's showing nothing.
Yeah, because it's nothing. It has no data. That's why it has no any no attributes, no behavior. You're right. Okay. So in what case you can use none? The case where you want to do something empty. You want to create a container with empty data, without any data. Okay. In that scenario, you can use none data type. Okay. Okay, guys. So this is about none. Next is the Boolean type. So now let me jump to Boolean type. Okay. So Boolean, what do you mean by Boolean? Anybody, what is your thought as a layman term? What do you mean by Boolean? Anyone knows about it? Okay, let me explain that. Let's suppose you're making any statement. Okay. For example, I'm saying that PM Modi is the Prime Minister of India. It's a valid statement or invalid statement?
Valid, sir.
Valid. So I can say it's a true, right? It's a true statement. I can say that, right? So
Yes, sir.
something, if you're making some statement and it there are two chances, whether it can be true, it can be false. It's a binary, right?
Yes.
There cannot be in the middle.
Yes or no. 0 or 1.
0, yeah, 0, 1. Yes or no.
Yes.
It's kind of yes and no. It can
Only
be
two
yes.
concepts are there.
Yeah, it can be yes, it can be no. That's all. So in that case, if you want to represent some data where it can be yes or no in Python, then we use Boolean. Okay. So in Boolean,
Yes.
there are two possible value. One is yes, one is no. So for yes, we say true. For no, we say false. Okay. So these are two data type as a Boolean data type, and it's called true and false. For example, let me how to create it. It's very simple. Say C is equal to what? It has only two possible value. True, TRUE, true. Okay. And true, T should be uppercase. Okay. Not the lowercase. True. If I see type of C, it will say it's a Boolean type. Bool type. It's called bool type. Okay. It can be false as well. So it has only two possible value. It can be either true or false. That's all. It is bool type. Okay. So in what cases we should Boolean type where you have to make some decision? You are writing some statement and it can be either true or false. Only two are possibility. It can be either true or false. Okay. So in that case, we can use true and false. Any doubt? And how to create it? Just use C is equal to variable name is equal to true or false. Okay. And there are some rules behind Boolean type. The rule is what? Let me. Okay. I will talk about rule in a bit later, but before that, let me complete string data type. Okay. String data type. String. So we cover int, float, complex number, Boolean is only true or false, and none means it has no data. It's an empty bucket. Okay. And let me go through the string now. Okay. So what is string in Python? So a string is for example, you want to store somebody names, a company name, street name, address, your children name, school name, something like that. Okay. So in that case, it's called text, some word or some text. Okay. So in that case, you have to use a string data type. Okay. So how to create a string? There are four possibilities. One, either you can use single quote, it is called single quote, or you can use double quote, or you can use triple single quote and triple double quote. So there are four ways you can create a string or text in Python. Okay. Let me give example. For example, I want to create a text. So single quote. Okay. Let's suppose I want to store my name, Rajesh. Okay. Single quote, Rajesh. This is the name. Okay. If you type C, it will say it's a string type, str type, string type. Okay. I can use double quote as well. Let's suppose I want to put my complete name, Rajesh Kumar, in double quote. So you can use either single quote or double quote as well. So it will be same str class, or you can use triple quote, 3 times, single, 3 times. This is also possible. So type of C will be string type. Okay. Or I can use double quote, triple double quote, 3 times like this. Like this. Okay. This is also possible. This is also a string. Okay. So there are four possibilities. There are four ways to create a string: single quote, double quote, and triple quote. And triple quote has two variations: single triple quote and double triple quote. Okay. Any doubt here?
Sir, what is the difference, sir?
I will
All are
come.
same.
Yes, I will come to that point. When to use single quote, when to use double quote, when to use triple quote. Okay. So, but you understand, right? How to create a string?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let's suppose I want to understand what are the different attributes and behavior inside the string. What are the different functions, different attributes? So I can use dir on string, dir of C. So it will say it has a lot of things inside it. Okay, so it has a lot of functions: capitalize, case hold, center, count, encode, ends with. There are a lot of things. In string has a lot of features: find, format, index, is alphanumeric, is alpha, is ASCII, is digit, is identifier, is lower, is numeric, is printable, is space, is title, is super. It has so many things. It has a bunch of information: upper, z fill, translate, title. So string has a lot of thing inside it. Okay. Int, float, complex number has a very limited attributes, but string has so many attributes. It has so many methods and behavior. Okay. So right now I'm not going to cover all of things. It will be overwhelming, but right now just keep in mind that string has a lot of attributes and behavior. Okay. And you should know each and every attributes. These all things you should know how to use it in your program. I'm not going to cover right now. We will cover later. Okay. Otherwise, it will be very overwhelming. So, for example, how to use center, how to use encode, how to use find, how to use format. So it's a complete chapter on string. It's a different chapter. Okay. So I will cover it later, not now. Okay. So this is the way of creating a string. And now let me come to like when. Okay. Now when to use single quote and when to use double quote and when to use triple quote. Okay. So it depends upon the use case. Let's suppose I'm giving one example. For example, this example. So this depends that how you want to store your text. Okay. So this is my goal, that I want to store this information. This is Python's class. Okay. I want to store this information, this data in my Python program. You can see here, this is Python's class. So here there's an apostrophe S. Okay. It's a single quote, right? Single quote class. Okay. So the situation over here is what? If there is a single quote inside, okay, in your text, if your text is holding text is containing single quote, okay, in that case you cannot use a single quote to store to create a string. So this will not work, okay, because I have already a single quote inside my text. So in that case I cannot use single quote as a string. Python will not allow it. Okay, so how to create a string in this case? Then you have to use double quote. So this is one scenario where you have to use double quote. So single quote will not work here, over here. If you use type here, so it will be a string. Okay, you got one example here. So if the text containing one single quote or apostrophe s, apostrophe, a single quote, then you cannot use single quote outside. You have to use double quote, or you have to use triple quote. Triple quote is also okay. It is also possible. Like this, I can use this one also. It is quite possible. Okay, or I can use a triple quote, well, this one also. This is also possible. Okay, so the rule says if your text containing single quote, then you cannot use a string with single quote. Then you have to use either double quote or triple quote. You got it? Vijay, anyone? Everyone?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay. So that depends upon the text, what you want to hold. For example, this example. So it has combination of, okay, it has only double quote. So here I have this example. Okay. So in this text, I have a, this is Python class, and Python is a in comma, in the double quote. Okay. So my text is holding double quote. You can see here, it's a double quote. So in that case, I cannot use double quote outside. So this is the rule, okay? If your text is containing single quote, then you cannot use single quote outside. If your text is containing double quote inside, then you cannot use double quote outside. Simple rule, okay? So you can see here, Python will not allow you this. It is, you can see it's a error sentence. If you run this, it will say it's a runtime error. It is not possible, okay? So how to overcome this? If I can use either single quote here, this is quite possible. Single quote I can use. Okay, or I can use triple quote as well. This is also okay. This is also okay, or I can use triple quote, double triple quote. This is also possible. Okay, so in this case, what I cannot use double quote, outside double quote, because I have already double quote inside. So this is, I cannot use this. Okay. Okay, so here I have example that I have both combination of single quote, double quote. In this text, I have to, it is containing both single quote, double quote. Okay, this is my text. Okay, so you can see here, it has both. It has combination of, this is Python. Python is a single quote and Java is a double quote. So I have the combination of both single quote as well double quote. Okay, so according to rule, if it is a single quote, then I cannot use single quote outside. like this. I cannot use it. Not possible. Or if it is a double quote inside, then again I cannot use double quote outside as well. It is also not possible. Okay. So what is the only option left for us? What I can do here?
Three quotes, sir.
3 quotes. This will work. This will work. Or I can use triple quote as well. This is also fine. So in this case, you can use only triple quote. Okay. So I hope you understand the context. This depends upon the text that you want to use in your program. Okay. Any doubt here?
No, sir, clear.
Okay. There's one more concept about string. String is immutable. Okay. Okay, this concept I will touch upon later. Okay, because string is a very complex data type. It has a lot of attributes, a lot of features. So I take a special class for a string. Okay, so I will take a special class only for a string. So right now I am just giving you overview about how to create a string. That's all I want to discuss right now. I don't want to go in very detail about it. Okay. So there are 4 possible way you can create a string: single quote, double quote, and triple quote, like this. Okay. So this much information I want to give you. So this part is clear, right? This information is clear to all.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Clear, sir.
Clear. Okay. Now again, I want to come to Boolean. Okay. So as I told you, Boolean, there are some rules about Booleans. So Booleans is either it can be true or false. Okay. And there are some couple of rules regarding Boolean. What are rules are? If anything which is either 0 or empty or none, what? It can be either 0 or empty or none. So these all things, 0, empty, none, it means it has a lack of data. That means it has no data. It's like a blank, empty, nothing. There's nothing, no much information. So if something is either 0 or empty or none, then it is considered as a false. This is a rule in Python. Okay. If something is either 0 or empty or none, then we consider this is a false. And apart from this combination, everything is a true. Okay. So when anything is false, in case of 0, in case of empty, or in case of none, only these 3 combination, in 3 cases, we consider everything is a false and everything is true. Okay. For example, 1 is considered as a true and 0 considered as a false. Okay. Let's suppose if I take int. Okay. So int 0, if I take in 0, then it is considered as a false and everything is as a true. Okay. So int 0 is always false, and apart from 0, everything is a true. Let's suppose float. If I'm taking 0.0, it is always false and rest are true. Let's suppose complex number. If I take in 0 plus 0 j, it is always false and rest are true. None is always false. Okay. And a string. Let's suppose here, okay, here I'm creating a string. Let's suppose I'm creating a string here like this. Okay. So can you let me know what is the data inside this string? What is holding? Is you find any data inside string? Any content, any text inside it? No, right? It has no. It has only no data.
No data.
So it is
Yes, sir,
called
no.
empty string. Okay. If it has no data, then you can say it's an empty string. Empty string. Okay. But let's suppose if I put some data here, then it is not an empty string. Okay.
Yes.
This one, do you think it's an empty string or full string? This one.
Empty string, sir.
Yeah, this is empty string.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Sunil, what do you think? It's an empty string or it holding some data? It is holding tab. You can say if I just press tab. Okay.
Tab, sir.
tab, yeah. No tab, sorry. Backspace, space, or you can tab also. You can
Yeah.
put tab as well. For example, like this, I press tab. Okay, so it's holding data. It's a tab. If I say only this without any tab, then it's empty. Otherwise, it is not empty. This is not empty.
Yeah.
This is not
Yes.
empty. It is holding some
It's looking like
space.
yes.
Okay, it is holding some space in it, so it is not empty. So this one is called empty. This is not nothing holding. So this is empty. Okay.
Always thought.
Be careful.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
This is clear, right?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay. Okay. For example, list. I will talk about list tuple set in next chapter. So anything which is empty list. So this is the empty list. This is empty tuple. This is empty set. This is empty dictionary. So anything which is empty without any content, it is called false. Okay. So these are some scenario where it can be false. Okay. So anything which is zero, I repeat, zero, empty, and none are false, and rest are true. Okay. Okay, guys. One more thing. So I cover all the data types. One more thing: int, float, complex, boolean, string, none. Okay.
So
Any doubt here? Any doubt? Yes.
Boolean, so many rules you told, na sir. Only you told one rule, na sir.
There is just one rule. Only just remember the false rule. When it will be false. Okay. Just memorize one rule. If it is zero, it is empty. None, then it is false, and remaining are true. That's all.
Okay.
So just remember one rule, false rule, and which is not false, then which is true, right? So only these cases can be false, and remaining cases can be true. That's all. Simple. Okay, guys. There is one more concept called typecasting function. Okay, so we cover all the basic and fundamental data type. What is int, what is float, what is complex, what is boolean, what is string, what is none. Okay.
Yes.
Now, in program, there is a possibility that I can convert int into float and float into int. So this int can be converted into float, or int can be converted into boolean, or int can be converted into string. So the type, it is called type conversion. Okay. So one type can be converted into different type. It is called type conversion. Okay. So how to do type conversion with the help of typecasting function. So there's a concept of what? Where is it?
So easy data type, sir.
Sorry. No, this is not a data type. It's a process. Okay. So your int, float, complex, bool, these are your data type. Okay. So here what I'm trying to explain here, that there's a process through which you can convert. Okay, you can convert one data into another data. That's what I'm trying to explain here. Let's suppose, for example, let's suppose this is my int. Okay, this is int. This is string, right? This is a string, right? So what is the data type of this string? So this is string data type. So what is the data type of variable A? It's a string type, right?
Yes.
I want to convert this string into int type. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. So this is the process. How I can convert one data into another data. It is called typecasting, your type conversion process. Okay. You got it? So I'm talking about the process, how to convert one data into another data. So in order to convert one data into another data, you have to use a typecasting function. So here the concept of typecasting function comes into picture. Okay, are you getting this? Okay, yes, so let me give us an example. So for example, int, so this is the int is a typecasting function as well. Float, complex, bool, str. Okay, so these are the typecasting functions that you have we have covered right now. And list, tuple, dict we will see later. Okay, when we'll complete we will cover derived data, then we will cover it. So for right now, you have to use this one. Okay, I think you are familiar with int, float, complex, bool, str. Okay, so int is used to convert anything into int type. Suppose you have an X thing, you want to convert X thing into int type, then you have to use int data type, int typecasting function. Let's suppose if you have X thing, you want to convert X into float type, then you have to use float function. You have something you want to convert into complex, then you have to use complex typecasting function. You have something and you want to convert into Boolean type, then you have to use bool typecasting function. If you have something and you want to convert into string, then you have to use str typecasting function. Let me give you an example. Let's suppose I have an int. Okay, here, let me start with the string. Let me start with the int. Let me start with the int only. Okay, so let's suppose I have an int type. This one is an int type. Okay, this int I want to convert into float. Okay, so for this int, yeah, Sunil.
No, some disturbance.
Okay, so let's suppose in mathematics, you just think about the mathematics perspective. So you have an int type. Okay, so how this int can be represented as a float type? What do you think?
8.0.
8.0, you're right. Okay, so how to convert this int into float? Then you have to use a function. What is the rule for that? Int I want to convert into float. Okay, so I have to use float function. Okay, so how to convert into float? Float and parenthesis and a, like this. Okay, so now B become what? Float type. I want to type the B of type. Okay, like this. Okay, so initially my source what integer, this is my source of data A. Okay, I want to convert it into float type, then this is the syntax we have to use. Float, like this. Here it is a float, it's a typecasting function. So float and parenthesis and pass the data, what you want to convert, use source of data. Okay, so whatever you pass over here, this will be converted into float type. So B become the float. Okay, if you run this, you can see the type of B become the B become 8.0. So 8 was my int, and it's a float part will become 8.0, and the class become float. You got this? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this way I can convert int into float. Okay. Let's suppose I have a true. Okay, true data, true Boolean. Okay, so the type of A is what? Boolean. Okay, so this Boolean I want to convert into float. Regarding this, I want to convert into float. So let me run this. It is possible. Yeah, it is possible. So because what is true? I told you that true internally it is 1. Okay.
Yes,
In programming, though it is a true, but in programming it is stored as a 1. False is always stored as a 0. And let's suppose if I do a false, okay, if I do is false, so it will be 0.0.
0.
It becomes false. Okay, so false is always stored as a 0. Int is always stored as a 1 in program. Okay, so if I want to convert false into float, it will be 0.0. If I convert true into float, it becomes 1.0. Are you getting this?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's, so I converted int into float. I converted Boolean into float. Let's take example of str. Okay. Let's suppose I have a string. Let's suppose 8. Okay. So I want to convert this string 8 into float. So what can be the result? What do you think? It should be 8.0.
Yes.
It become float. You can see here, it was a string, but I converted into float type. It becomes a float now. Okay. Let's suppose this one. Now this string I want to convert into float. What can be the result? Think about it. Do you think it is possible to convert this string into float? What do you think?
No, sir.
No, right? Because this is not a numerical data. It is holding some text. Okay. So you can see if you run it, it will say runtime error. So it is not able to convert into float. Why? Because it is not a numerically representable. Okay. So if you want to convert into float, then your string should be numerically representable. For example, only if I take 8, so Python will understand, okay, it's 8 only. It's a numerically representable, then it is possible to convert into 8.0. It is quite possible. Okay. But something, let's suppose if I say RAM, how I can convert into float? No, it is not. It is not a numerically representable, right? So this cannot be possible. Python is not possible to convert RAM into float. But if I say 1 or 0, so this can be converted because it's a numerically representable. Okay, it's a numerically representable. That's why I can convert into float. Are you getting the sense, the context behind it? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So there is a rule what int and float can be used only when something is numerically representable. So this is the rule which are come out from this exercise,
Okay.
right? So if you want to convert something into int and float, it means something should be numerically representable. If something is not numerically representable, you cannot convert it into int and float, right? Are you getting this? So
Yes.
this is a rule, okay? Let's suppose one I want to convert into int. So let's use int here. It will be 1. 1, okay? Let's suppose I have a float data, 6.9, okay? I want to convert into int type. So use int type casting function. It will be convert into int. So 6.9, what do you think? What can be the int representable? What can be the int data type for this? Think from the mathematics perspective. So 6.9, what can be the int format? What do you think?
So
6.
is, uh,
It will be 6. So
6.
it will ignore the fraction part.
Yes.
Okay. Let's suppose if I say true, I have a Boolean type. True. So if I'm converting true into int, so what can be the result? Do you think it is convertible? Can it convert?
True.
True into int.
Show 1.
1. Yeah, true is 1. 1. I told you, right? True is always 1, false is always
Yes.
0. Let's suppose
Yes.
I am using false. It will be 0.
We can without forgetting this, what is the false and true? I say true is that is the highest, false is the lowest.
Yes.
So that is a easy method.
Can you repeat, Sunil?
True is the highest.
True is the highest. Okay.
Highest.
Hmm.
False is the lowest.
False is the lowest.
Lowest. 0. That is the it is the we have to make it as 0. It is 0. It is the lowest.
Okay, I'm giving one more analogy. Okay.
Okay.
You know those switch. You use the switch box,
yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Switch box.
Yes, yes.
Switch on off.
On and off.
On
Yes,
off.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it is a better example. So if you
Yes,
do,
yes.
it has only 2 state. It's a binary state. Either it's a 1 or 0. If you switch on,
Yes.
if you switch over for light, it becomes 1. If you off it, it becomes 0. Okay.
Yes, yes. Yes.
So it's a true false. So switch on, it means true, and numerically in programming, numerically, true is
Yes.
always 1 and false is
Yes.
always 0.
Yeah.
Numerically. Okay.
Yes,
Just
yes.
this is the concept. So
Yes, sir.
false will be here 0. Okay. So don't get
Okay.
confused. Okay. Okay. And yeah. Okay. So we saw int, float, and now let's take example of bool type. Okay. Something I want to convert into bool. Okay. For example, I have an int is equal to 2, 7. Okay. I want to convert into bool type. So use here bool. Okay. Now there's a rule for Boolean type. I told you this rule, right? If is something is 0 or empty or none, then it is false. Okay. These 3 is always false and remaining all true, right? So this is a rule. Okay. So here, now tell me if I'm using a is equal to 7, I want to convert into bool type. So what can be the result?
1.
No, it can be either true or false, not 1. Bool means what? Either true or false. So B can be either true or false. So in this case, it will be true or false. B is a true or false. A is equal to 7. I'm converting into bool type. So what can be the outcome?
You get true.
True.
True, sir.
True.
True.
See,
True.
what is the rule? If something is zero or
Zero,
empty or
empty
none,
or
then
none.
it is false. Otherwise,
Yes.
it is always true.
True.
It is true.
True.
Okay. Even I do anything, 7,000 something, everything is true.
Okay.
Okay. But if I
Okay.
zero a is equal to 0, I'm converting into bool, it will be what? False. Okay.
False.
If I'm using 0.0, a fraction, it is again false. Right?
False.
Yes, yes. Zero
getting
or
this?
empty. Zero is also zero.
Yeah.
0.0 is also zero.
If I say none, so if I convert it
Zero?
into bool type, 1 can be the result.
Yes.
Zero.
It's a true or false?
False.
False. None is always false.
False.
Okay.
Okay.
Regarding this, let's suppose I'm using this. Now it is true or false?
Have some text. Boolean.
Sir? What is this?
It's a true or false?
None. This is string.
It's a string.
Zero. False, sir.
It's also false. Zero, empty, none also false.
This string is an empty string or full string?
Sir?
Empty string, sir.
Full string. Full string.
Full string, right? It has content, so it will be true, right?
True. Yes, sir.
I'm getting this. It's a true because this is a string and it is holding some content.
Yes, yes.
It's a
Okay.
true.
What is maybe? There is some content is there.
Yeah. Let's suppose
Yes.
if I do this,
If there is no apostrophe here,
now it is true or false?
there is no gap. There is no space, sir.
No space.
Empty string, sir.
Empty
Empty
string. Then
Empty
it is
string.
true or
Empty
false?
string, false.
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 False. Let's suppose if I do this, then
True.
is it true or false?
True, sir.
True because it has some data. True.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. This is a list. Okay. I will talk about list later, but this is a list. Okay. So this list has no data. It's an empty list. Okay. So if you
Okay.
convert empty list into Boolean, it will be what? It becomes false.
False.
It will, right? If something is false, something's empty. Empty is always false. Empty bucket,
Okay.
empty glass, everything is false.
There is
But
no data.
as soon
is
as
there,
you put
so
some data here, now
there
this
is-
list containing 1 contains 0. Okay, so this is
Yes.
not empty now. So it will be true.
Mm,
Okay, I think you have got it.
Yes, yes, yes.
So here I have given example, just a bool example. There are a lot of example here for your reference. You can use it. Okay. Okay, guys. So this is string, cover, float. Okay, so I have given a lot of example here. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Float, you can
yes.
just use it. Just try to
Sir?
implement. Yeah, exercise it. Yeah.
Sir, for today, you can stop, sir.
Yeah. I'm going to stop. Yeah.
mm,
So this is all. We cover all the fundamental data type. Okay. All the
Yes,
fundamentals.
yes, yes.
And typecasting function. Okay. Next time we will